and I'm glad they moved on in the sequel. Yes, this movie had a sequel, but it did not match the same acclaim as Purple Rain, and yes, I do plan on looking at it sometime early next year. Me and my big mouth. Before we begin, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It costs free $99, it helps out the channel, and you'll have zero regrets doing it. So without further ado, on to our feature presentation. Welcome to JGTV, and today it is time we look at the forgotten and for good reason sequel to Purple Rain in Graffiti Bridge. And we're going to ask the question, is this movie really that bad? This review, recap, synopsis video is going to be different from my other reviews. Instead of going by scene, I'm just going to go through the reasons why this movie didn't work. Normally I go through scene by scene explaining the movie, but I don't think this movie is worth doing that because there isn't much to the movie to begin with. But anyway, it fast forwards to 1991, Prince and Morris Day are competing nightclub owners, with Prince owning the Grand Slam and Morris Day owning the Pandemonium. Morris Day wants to be the top nightclub in town, but Prince's Grand Slam club is in the way. Now, one absence that is felt in this movie is Apollonia, the leading lady from the last film. She's not here, nor her absence is explained, but Apollonia had this to say about Graffiti Bridge.
Well, at one point, Prince actually approached you to do a sequel
Yes.
of Purple Rain called Graffiti Bridge. And you read over it, the script, and you said, oh my God, this is horrible. This is a piece of shit.
I said, it's a piece of shit to him on the phone. And he says, no, it's not. It's a Wizard of Oz. I said, no, it's not. I said, that's a classic. And he also said, because we had already negotiated my lawyers, that if there was a sequel that I would get points and there was a big, a monster salary. He says, your salary? He goes, we can't pay you.
Again.
He goes, we can't pay you. He goes, and I said, well, I get a producer's credit. I get points. He goes, no. He goes, you just do the movie and we pay you what we pay you.
They replaced her with Aura, and she's basically an angel, and her goal is to mend the fences between Morris Day and Prince. Aura spends most of her time by the bridge made of graffiti, where you get the movie's title. But towards the end, long story short, Prince gets fed up with Morris and challenges him to a music battle. But when the battle was about to begin, Aura is struck by a vehicle, and it leads us to the Purple Rain moment in this film with "Still Would Stand All Time." Try saying that fast. For one, the song is no Purple Rain, and even if the song itself is decent, it works, and thanks to Aura's message of peace, Morris and Prince squash their beef and join forces, and the movie pretty much ends like that. One thing Purple Rain got right was that the movie was paced pretty well. We got time to know the characters, the movie dove into Prince's mindset, we also get to know Morris's intentions, Prince's toxic relationship with his parents and Apollonia, so on and so forth. And when the timing was right, for nightclub scenes, we get memorable tunes, not only from Prince, but also the time. On Graffiti Bridge, there's barely any plot or meaningful scenes. Most of the time was filled with these musical numbers. Some will say that the movie was made to be a visual album, which will be a first of its kind. But remember, Prince marketed this as Purple Rain 2. There has to be some story, it can't be filled with all musical numbers. Even the final musical number when Aura gets struck by a vehicle, and I can't say she dies because she's an angel, but the final musical tune where Prince goes full religious in hopes for him to squash his beef doesn't hit nowhere near the levels of Purple Rain. All the musical numbers aren't all that bad, because the scene with Tevin Campbell performing Round and Round was probably the most notable from this movie. And too bad the movie didn't do anything else with it. All in all, this movie was filled with too many musical fillers. And this next point ties into the previous point. As compared to Purple Rain, the music doesn't even come close to what that movie brought to the table. And I say it before and I say it again, the music wasn't all bad. Round and Round, Thieves in the Temple helped the film, but barely. But in terms of finding a true standout, there isn't really any. Even for Morris Day and the Time, you could point out that Jungle Love from Purple Rain being what it is, he didn't have a true standout musical moment in this film. That's a big problem for me. The filming of Purple Rain took place in Minnesota. We got to feel the environment of Minneapolis. But with Graffiti Bridge, it seemed like the movie took place in a film lot or studio, which for budget reasons, not a problem. But this film made it way too obvious. You could tell this was made at Warner Brothers Studio. And I was going to say something about that budget, but compared to Purple Rain, the budget was nearly identical. And it makes you wonder, what was Prince blowing the budget on? The music? In all, the setup of this movie was made to look cheap. And finally, I think Prince sabotaged this film. His acting was nowhere near the level of what Purple Rain was. He had more control of what he wanted in this movie in terms of the music, the story, the atmosphere, and etc. But someone should have stepped in and said, Prince, this ain't it. You gotta go back in the lab and come with something else. But let me ask you this question. Who was going to step up to Prince to tell him that? And the answer is no one. Prince is Prince, and telling him no could get you fired. Then Prince had the nerve to compare this movie to The Wizard of Oz, one of the most important movies of all time. And this movie is nowhere near Wizard of Oz territory, and calling it Purple Rain 2 was misleading. This movie was booty cheeks. This movie is the definition of false advertisement. What was supposed to be a sequel to Purple Rain, it wasn't. I remember in Purple Rain someone said to Prince that he only makes music that's fitting for him and not the audience, and it is to my belief that this was the case when it came to this movie. Prince started to transition into the artist formerly known as Prince era shortly after this film bombed, a signal that he no longer chased trending music or mainstream desires, but instead make the music he wanted to make. But with too many musical numbers, a plot that has no spine, the music being severely underwhelming, and a setting and atmosphere being cheap, you could say that this film bombed. So no, I did not like this movie, and I don't recommend it to anyone to seek it out. And that pretty much concludes this Graffiti Bridge thing. And I want to apologize if this review is shorter than my normal recaps, but when the movie gives me so little to work with and say, that's what happens. But tell me what you think about this video in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Most of you who come across this channel aren't subscribed, so please do so. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. The following was a JGTV production. Thanks for watching.